Hi, everybody. I'm Tamara Zoner.
And I'm John Davis.
Welcome to Spirit Cafe.
Come in, sit down, and
grab a cup of love.
A Spirituality Without the Guilt podcast.
Om Mani Padme Om. Om Mani Padme Om. Om Mani Padme Om. Oh, today we're going to talk about meditation. We're going to talk about meditation. Hey, everybody, this is John Davis, and I am here once again with my cohort in crime, the lovely Tamara Zoner. And today we're going to talk about meditation and its practice and purpose and all kinds of cool things like that. Hello, Tamara Zoner. How are you today?
Hello, John Davis. I'm doing well and always amused, or perhaps bemused, by your openings.
You know, I honest to God, sit back and try to figure out good things just to amuse you with, because I think that it makes me happy to amuse you in that moment. You know, that's why I did the to be or not to be speech, because I know you like Shakespeare and I like Shakespeare. And I was like, I'm gonna throw out a Shakespeare on her. Ha!
Yeah.
So it's a gift to my friend every time.
Thank you.
Know that I've thought about how to be goofy with you. In a good way, in a clean way.
Okay. All right. Let's get on topic here, John.
There you go. Meditation.
Stay on track in your life. Meditation.
Yeah, meditation. That's the way to go. I have been a person who has meditated for over 30 years. I meditate twice a day, 40 minutes. And I find that if I miss a day, my day gets chaotic. I find that it really is. And it's funny because that almost sounds like I'm addicted to meditation. It's not that I'm addicted to meditation. It's more, or I have a need for meditation, but it's just being totally clear, because I think sometimes we get that moment where our mind gets cluttered with the dailies, and we need to work out of that. What's your thought on meditation?
I haven't been meditating quite as long, though I have been meditating for about on and off 12 to 15 years, where I just tried it on, and then did it more actively in the last 5 years, like very regularly, and then about a year and a half committed to a daily practice. And I too find that it creates space within me. It's helped me. I talk about this all the time in my groups and with my clients. Like, it's helped me elongate my pause button. You know, where I used to have a reaction, and now I have a response, and it's a measured response. You know, or even more interestingly, is when I find myself observing a reaction, and I know that that's from this practice of meditation and sitting still and being quiet and allowing myself to be the observer of my thoughts instead of trying to control them.
Right. So when you say meditation and practice, do you have a specific method of meditation? Because a lot of times you say meditation, some people are like, well, I don't know what that is, and I don't want to learn all about that. And other people are like, well, no, I meditate when I walk in the woods. You know, and so there's a whole very different thing. And when I looked it up earlier, it said meditation is focusing the mind on an object, thought, or activity to achieve mental clarity and calm emotional state.
That's a great definition.
That's a great definition, but it also doesn't say you have to do it a certain way.
No.
And that to me is so important, because most people think they have to do it a certain way, and then they get into the mindset of I can't do that.
Yes. Yeah. I can't sit still. I can't stop thinking. Well, that's not the point. So I think part of the purpose of this particular episode is to help people broaden their view of what meditation is, because meditation is anything you want it to be. Really. I would say that I started with moving meditation, with yoga, and then noticing, because I've been doing yoga for 30 years. So I started practicing that more consciously as well in the past 10 years, and found that was my meditation to start with, because I was focused on the movement and I left my brain and went into my body, and maybe a pose was hard to hold, and I was really like focused on how that muscle felt, staying strong, my breath, activating my core. And so that was what I considered my meditation as well. And so meditation can be anything you want it to be, and we don't have to stop thinking. That's not the point of meditation. The point is really to become that observer of what's happening in your mind. And
I love that definition. I love that definition. I'm sorry to cut you off.
That's okay. That's all right.
Good thought.
I like
What I find interesting about what that statement is being the observer, because when you say that, what that says to me is I've shut off my subconscious beliefs that I'm just observing. I'm just observing, right? And the subconscious beliefs are the landmines that typically come into our life, the things that have happened in our past that suddenly will pop up, even though you may have worked for years to get rid of certain things. They're still going to pop up occasionally because they're still back in there somewhere. Your key is to make sure that your past is as positive as possible by making your present moment successful. But the idea of being able to be the observer of your life and the awareness of your life is fascinating to me, because I have had, I've been very fortunate in my life. I can't tell you how blessed I really am in my life, because I have done so many amazing things with so many amazing people. And I've done labyrinth meditations where you walk the labyrinth for hours.
That sounds fun.
Fascinating. And then in Christianity, it's very interesting, because in Christianity, the word meditation in Christianity means to basically ruminate on a passage of the Bible.
Okay.
Is what they consider a meditation, is to literally sit and actually the way it's described is you sit and you recite the passage over and over again quietly. So basically,
like a mantra.
Like a mantra, right? It becomes a mantra, But like the earliest references to meditation they can find, I believe, if I remember correctly, is in the Vedas, the Hindu texts, the ancient Hindu text, and it was called dhyana. Dhyana is what it was called. And basically it just means awareness. It just means awareness, and being able to step outside of yourself and look at your experience without the judgments and the negativity of our subconscious belief, to me, is fascinating. And what I found interesting is the people who don't think they can meditate are the ones who have an idea of exactly what it is.
Right.
And they go, okay, I have to have a completely quiet mind. And then they sit down and they completely quiet their mind. And well, the first thing, the definition says an object or thought or activity, an object to think of, something to focus on, right? And by shutting off the brain and saying, I'm not going to think of anything, you're not putting an object in, right? You're not putting something to focus on, right?
Yeah, it's very similar to when people want to change a behavior or get rid of a bad habit, right? They think they could just stop the bad habit, but in fact, we need to replace the habit with a good habit. So our brain needs something to fill that space, or it's going to go all over the place. And meditation is that same thing. You find a focal point, whether it's your breath or a candle flame, or something out in nature that you're paying attention to, or simply your own footsteps if you're doing a walking meditation. And it doesn't have to be any particular length of time either. I tell people, if all you start with is 16 seconds, start with 16 seconds. Take 2 full breaths in and out. That's your meditation. That's enough to start with.
Right. And the people who become good at meditations are the ones who, keep doing it until those times last longer.
Yeah, exactly. Good at it. Half the time in my meditations, I'm thinking to myself, God, I suck at meditation. My mind is just so busy today. Right. And then I remind myself, return to your breath, or use a mantra, Sat Nam, or whatever. And simply find that focus, because that's all it is. That's all it is.
And if you're focused on how busy you are that day, you should relegate that busy to your calendar. In other words, so I wake up in the morning, I go, okay, what am I doing today? I open my calendar, I look at it. because, and lately it's been crazy. I'm going to hit 100 guest spots on podcasts real
Wow.
soon, and it's like crazy. And now I've got my Interaction Hero podcast out there as well.
Cool.
And now I'm getting guests contacting me to do as well. So it's like
Nice.
crazy days, right? But I don't think about them that way. I go, oh, what am I doing tomorrow? And I open up my calendar and I look at it, and then I turn it off. I don't let my mind ruminate.
I
live
love
in
that.
in
I
that
think
space.
that's really smart, because I do find that occasionally, if I haven't looked at it, I like to do it the night before, because when I wake up, I want to start right away with yoga and then meditation. And occasionally during that meditation, my mind's going, yeah, but when do I have to start today? And
Yeah, I always check it the night before, and then I meditate, because
Right.
it's like, shut that part off and get over here. But I think relegating it to a technology or even a planner book.
That's what I have. I'm a paper kind of a girl.
I'm an Apple Outlook on cloud calendar kind of guy.
I
Right?
have them both, but I need my paper. I need the multicolored ink and the highlighter, and that can actually be a meditation as well, as you put your work into your calendar or your dates, because I use the paper one. It does actually feel like a meditation when I take the monthly and then put it onto the daily. And it's this very soothing process for me. And any kind of soothing process is meditation, right?
Well,
Soothing process that's focused.
Right. It's very funny you say that, because if you were to look at this right here,
I'm flipping through his notepad.
right, this is page after page after page of the same intention.
Oh.
It's probably 300 pages of the same intention.
Right.
And it's whenever I have a spare moment, I'm at my desk and I decide that I have a few moments to clear my mind. I just move my mic up out of the way and I sit here and I just write my intention over and over and over again. And what it does is it clears out the junk that's jumping into my day, and puts me back focused on what I'm manifesting into my life.
Nice.
So, and to me, it's fascinating because it's called a writing meditation.
Yes.
Now, as far as meditations, I've done, like I said, labyrinth meditations, writing meditations, walking meditations. I've done Native American chanting, which is a form of vocal meditations. In Peru, I did a what's known as a smoke meditation, where you surround yourself with smoke. You basically,
is it like sage smoke or some other kind of
yes. And actually what they do is they burn, it's very interesting. They burn like a sugar candy. And the candies are made to look like a certain thing, and they burn them in the fire so that you're having that essence of this object. But because it's a sugar candy, it has a sweet smell to it. And so you're sitting there and you're like having this sweet smell, and they're burning things in front of you. It was really cool. And we did that on Lake Titicaca, and that was really amazing. But the meditation to me has become a not only a daily practice, but something to me that is like something I would never want to give up, something I would never want to get rid of, because it literally does. I find that, like I said, if I miss a time, my day gets harder. If I miss a meditation, my day is more difficult. And I can find that now, like I started with, like I said, with all those different things, breathing and all that stuff. But all of them kept bringing me back to a very specific thing. And it was a feeling. And it was the feeling of, and the way I describe it is of unconditional love. And so now my meditations don't do any of those things. The only thing I focus on now is getting that feeling of unconditional love. And it's interesting because I sit down to meditate, and I focus on the feeling, and the goosebumps raise on my arms. And I sit here and I just feel that, for 40 minutes, I'm like in this total bliss state, right? Well, that's what in Buddhism, that's what they talk about, is feeling nirvana, that bliss state, right? Getting to that space of feeling that. And so I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, okay, I think I'm getting it. I think I'm starting to understand it. It's not about any outer thought or any practice or it literally is about feeling. Because I believe manifestation is based in feeling as well.
Oh, certainly, I agree.
Right. So I think feeling is a huge practice. The question is, how do you get to that kind of place of feeling that kind of way?
Practice.
Practice, right? Practice, right?
Because what I notice in my own meditation is the more that I practice, even when I feel, antsy or my brain's going, if I sit down anyway and allow it, right? It's just allowing. Then, like you said earlier, those stretches of stillness last longer each time. And that's when that feeling arises. And maybe it's for 5 seconds, and maybe it's for 5 minutes, maybe it's for 25. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're opening to it. And I'll ask, the yada yada. We're just going to call God yada yada from now on, straight up. I'll ask to be open. I'll ask to connect. I'll ask, to be one with all that is, and help me get there. And then I might visualize, or I might use a mantra, or I might focus on each sense for a few moments, or I use a lot of breath work. I really enjoy breath work and find it very helpful to still me in body and mind. And so as we practice each day, once or twice a day, or 3, 4, 5 times a week, there's no you have to do it. I don't listen to anybody who says I have to do it exactly one way, because exactly one way doesn't work for everyone. Right. And so if it means finding what fits for you and you're doing it, that's better than thinking, well, no, that won't work for me, so I can't ever do it. So you do what you can, you start where you're at. And if you have 3 minutes, take 3 minutes. If you have 10 minutes, take 10, and work yourself up and build meditation like a muscle so that you get to that 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40. Do you do 40 minutes each setting?
Each time. Yeah.
Okay. So that's really, really good. That's impressive. Yeah. I've worked my way up to 20.
Long time. I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. One of the things you just said was, stillness and body as well. So it really affects the physical form. And there was when I moved to Ohio, this is going to sound ridiculous, but it truly is true. when I moved to Ohio from the beach resort, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, which has the climate zone of Atlanta, Georgia, and I moved to Ohio, which does not have that.
I'm so sorry.
I went out to dinner with some friends, and driving home, I suddenly started itching, and my head started burning, and I drove myself to an emergency room, and I had hives all over my body. And they're like, first of all, they thought I was a drug addict and I had taken some sort of drug. And I was like, I've never taken a drug in my life. Right. And then they discovered that I had a condition, it's gone now, called cold urticaria, which is the allergy to cold.
Oh no.
And it took about 2 years for my body to adapt. So
my gosh.
Yeah. As a keynote speaker I can't walk into a place. If what was happening is I'd step outside, and if the cold air would hit my skin, I would get hives in the exposed skin. So in other words, as a keynote speaker now, I go outside and I had to wear like a full face shield and goggles so that I didn't walk on stage looking like a raccoon with the hives, right? For 2 years, that happened, 2 winters. And now it doesn't affect me at all, but and I'm really looking forward to going back to the beach. But I was lying on the hospital bed, and I was stressed out because I had no idea what was going on. I was a little freaked out. Doctor came in and he said, and he's looking at the monitors on the walls. He says, "Do you have high blood pressure?" I said, "No, never have." He says, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah." And he left the room, and I looked up and I could see my blood pressure, and I actively meditated, and I watched my blood pressure fall on the monitor. I literally watched it tick down to normal.
Yeah.
And the doctor walked back in. He says, "Oh, I must have read that wrong." And he kept on about his day. But I watched it fall. I consciously and actively meditation changed my body's physiology because the stress wasn't there that
Right.
caused the blood pressure.
Yes.
So I think one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about meditation is the fact that it literally does alter me, not only mentally, but physically. It really makes me feel better about my whole experience here, and, if you really think about it, if your thoughts are cluttered, and as Buddha said, what you think you become, you create your world, then you're creating cluttered,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you can take some time just to throw that in the trash bin and empty the trash bin, like on your computer desktop,
Yes.
right? Right. That's
Yes.
kind of what meditation is. It's like throwing away the junk files.
It really is. And with practice and over time, you notice that there's less, right? There's less random thinking. There's less running in the background of thoughts. And you'll notice more frequently quiet, or I notice more frequently that my mind is just quiet. And how cool is that? And then,
Good.
oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
You said, you noticed your body changing with very clear evidence, and research is showing that our brains are also changed with a practice of meditation. We have younger brains with a long-term practice of meditation, which is super cool. It affects our memory, and it affects, actually how well our minds function. And so,
Right.
it's all very cool.
Well, there's two scientific studies, which I find is completely fascinating. Number one is they take two meditators, they put them in the same building in two separate rooms,
Mm-hmm.
and they get them meditating at the same time. Their heart rhythm goes into sync.
Cool.
So I mean they're connecting. So you're connecting more. Then the Transcendental Meditation Society and the TM movement,
Mm-hmm.
they brought a whole bunch of meditators into New York City and meditated on the word peace. And crime dropped 27% while they were there. And when they left, it jumped right back up.
Oh, wow.
So literally the state of being in that space literally changes the environment and the people around you.
Absolutely. And schools have done it where they've incorporated meditation, and they've seen, the behavior issues drop significantly, and kids who were maybe headed down a dangerous track stopped that dangerous track and graduated and went on to do well, because meditation can change us so vitally internally that it can change the course of everything. And it changes communities too, when communities do it together.
Right, exactly. And I'm a firm believer, as you know, of the love and fear paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you get into a meditative state, you've abolished your fear. You have so much less fear than you ever had
Mm-hmm.
the rest of your day, because I think the world is designed to give us the stimulus to assess our fears. And
Mm-hmm.
so by meditating, you're actually taking time off of having to have that primal response. And when I look at people who are very good at meditating, they seem to be the ones who are willing to try anything.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who are like, okay, let's do that, and they're not knocking themselves down or doubting they can, because they're no longer in that state of judging themselves by their past experience. They're more, as you said earlier, perfect way of saying it, they're more action oriented rather than reaction oriented.
Mm-hmm.
In my speaking business, I would call it being an action hero, not a reaction zero, right?
Right.
And in this one, I see that as a huge benefit, not only to them, but to the world in general, because
Mm-hmm.
the less they act upon new stimulus, and fall into reaction, the less we can propel ourselves forward and do better things.
Absolutely.
You need people who are willing to break the barriers and go outside of their box and their comfort zones.
Mm-hmm.
And comfort, the word comfort zone itself is based upon the idea that you're not comfortable, which means you're in fear of some
Mm-hmm.
kind. And meditation lets you reduce that fear response.
Yeah, over time and with practice. So for anyone listening who's just started or tried it a few times, and you think, well, crap, all my fears came to the surface. Well, because you're starting. Because at the beginning, this is where we increase our awareness. And this is where we go within and ask ourselves, what are those true deep subconscious beliefs that we're seeing the results of that we may not even be aware of? So meditation is this process at the beginning, and even as an experienced meditator, of allowing your true deep beliefs to surface, because you're getting quiet enough to finally hear them. And once they're on the surface and you're aware, then you can do something about them. And so, it allows us to see where we're acting from fear and to choose differently.
And the old adage, when the plane's going down, put your own oxygen mask on first, right? If you want to affect the people around you, then you need to do for yourself first. And giving yourself meditation is like one of the greatest gifts I think you can give yourself, because
Yes.
it totally clears you. It totally makes your life easier and smoother. However, there are those people who get into meditation, and the practice itself becomes fearful. I had a person I used to work with who was a long-term transcendental meditator. And, I was one of those guys. I was also meditating at the time, and I was very much into like trying all the new things that were coming down the pike. And a guy showed up who was going to teach us Kundalini yoga. And I was like, cool, let's do some fire breath. Let's do it, baby. Right. I was very excited. Right. And he left and he walked away, and he came back like 40 minutes later. I said, where'd you go? He said, well, I had to go call the local TM center to find out whether this would mess me up. And I'm like, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of going inside, because you just ask permission, basically.
Right. Your permission is within, man. Like,
right.
You ask yourself, you be guided by your own intuitive gut feelings, whether something's right for you or not. And if you have to ask someone else for confirmation, well, get back to meditating and get to know yourself a little bit better, so that you can hear your own answers and feel your own answers.
Right. And that was the biggest issue that I think that person had, was the fact that he couldn't feel his own answers. He was you and I both have experience with narcissists, and he was very much a narcissist, and everything was about him. But even though everything was about him, it was like his knowledge was book learned and not experientially learned. And so,
Yeah. Also, like, TM is a thing, right? That, I mean, I know people who have had amazing experiences with TM, and they've been doing that for 60 years or so. And it's like this super secret. You have to pay a whole bunch of money to be trained by a special teacher who will give you a secret mantra. And I don't jive with that.
I don't jive with that either.
To me, I say this a lot, either on our podcast or other podcasts, where, like, we are our own best resource. Every single thing that we need is within us. And so I don't need a super cool guru to tell me a mantra that's going to change my life, because I'm the one who can change my life. If I ask the universe for a mantra, it will give me one.
Right.
So,
well, it's like that book of intentions that I call it the book of intentions.
Yeah.
I just sit there and I just write the book of intent, write over and over again, the book of my intentions. Right. And when I look at that, when I look at that book, it's my choosing. It's not somebody else's, this is what you have to say. These are the things you're going to recite for over and over again. This is all me and my own creation of experience. And I think that with meditation, if you're looking outside of yourself, then you've missed the point, because meditation is all about a journey of self. It's all about going inside,
Exactly.
And my mom said it best. She said, spirituality is a personal journey, and personal journeys mean that you're alone. You're out there doing it and figuring out your own junk.
You're alone while connected to all.
Everything. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you remember what the Zen Buddhist said to the hot dog vendor? Make me one with everything.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of the point. And that's where we feel love, because if God and the universe is love, then when we go all Zen and in our meditations, we connect with that oneness, that loveness,
That loveness. I love that.
Loveness. I like to make up words. The loveness.
I love the loveness, Be with the one, be with the loveness.
Gonna have to make a pretty little picture with that one.
Oh my God. Yeah, you should totally build that one. Well, that sounds pretty good. I think we've done very well on meditation. I think that if people have questions about meditation, they should reach out to us.
Definitely.
And Facebook page. We don't get a lot of people talking to us on our Facebook page. And I would like to change that, because I think the reason we do these things is to have conversations and to broaden our perspective as well, because it's our personal journey. You want to take us out of here, young lady?
Sure. First, I want to thank our listeners for being here. Wherever you're listening, go ahead and give us a few 5 stars and let us know what you're thinking. And do connect with us on Facebook. We love to continue the conversation. And then come back for more next week. We are so grateful you were here. Thank you, and create yourself an amazing day.
Thank you for joining us at Spirit Cafe, a place where you can safely explore your spirituality without the guilt or dogma of religion. Leave all comments and suggestions on the Spirit Cafe podcast Facebook page.